and good morning. This is a 5-minute devotion, and I was thinking about Pastor Josh Miller's sermons. They've been on my mind a lot lately. Several people have commented on them as to how much they've helped them. He's been preaching from 1 John. In particular, he's been preaching about how we love the brethren, how we're supposed to love the brethren. And I was reading through Galatians yesterday afternoon, and I was, of course, came to the classic verse, bear ye one another's burdens, in Galatians chapter number 6. And the thought crossed my mind, the troubles of this world are so relentless. It's amazing. People are putting out memes right now about 2020 being the worst year ever and all this kind of stuff, but it's not been the worst year ever by any means. But the troubles that assail us are seemingly continual. Makes it very difficult to stay focused on heaven when we are constantly bothered by earthly things. If there's something always drawing your attention away from heaven, it's hard to keep your mind on it. And earthly things have been heavy on us as of late. We're commanded, of course, in Colossians chapter 3 to set our minds on heavenly things. We're to focus on not earthly things, but heavenly things. Colossians chapter 3 and verse number 2 in particular tells us that. But even the most committed believer has to admit that from time to time, earthly things obscure our heavenly vision and our heavenly view. Too often we find ourselves fretting over the things on this earth. We begin to worry, we begin to be grieving, we stumble, we begin to strain under the toil of our daily labors. We may even feel guilt because of the things that we haven't accomplished or feel like we should do, who we haven't called. We didn't call this person, we really should have called them. We need to send them a card. We should have been thinking about this person in a more real way. There's just a few of the worldly burdens that we face, and those are minor, right? Those are just little things. Those aren't even things that we really think about that much, but they're the smaller things in life, and they get us. Sorry, trying to adjust this camera here a little bit so that I'm not completely sideways. We're commanded repeatedly, like Colossians chapter 3 verse 1, to seek those things which are above and not to set our affections on earthly things, but yet we find ourselves doing that. We're instructed to look not to the things that are seen, but look to the things that are unseen in 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse number 18. We don't need to allow the burdens of this life to divert our hearts from heaven, but it is so easy to do it. Well, how's it possible? How can we avoid this? When we're weighed down with a load of troubles and a load of weights, we get bad news from one of our children, we get bad news from the doctor, it can become too much for a person sometimes, and those pie in the sky sentiments that people give us on the cute little memes on Facebook, they sound very hollow many times. So that is precisely why church is so important. This is precisely why it is critical to let a local fellowship be part of your life. The duty of believers is found in Galatians chapter 6. One of the duties, I should say, not all of the duties are summed up there, but one of them is, and it's bear ye one another's burdens. And I'm afraid that the reason we struggle so many times and we stagger under the load is because we're not bearing one another's burdens. And one of the ways we do that is to make church an integral part of our life. If you don't have the fellowship of the saints to undergird you when you're going through the struggles in life, you're going to face a lot of problems. So we've looked at Colossians chapter 3, we've looked at 2 Corinthians chapter 4, we looked at Galatians chapter 6 this morning in our consideration. I would urge you back to those texts, Colossians 3, 1 and 2, 2 Corinthians 4:18, and Galatians chapter 6. Very important aspects. And all of this can be accomplished within the scope of a local assembly. So be faithful this coming Lord's Day. Find yourself in a Bible preaching church.